Good morning, everyone. I'm San Francisco Mayor London Breed. I'm joined here today with our Police Chief, Bill Scott, as well as our Fire Chief, Janine Nicholson. First of all, I just want to take this opportunity to just really address the hurt and the pain and the frustration that I know so many people, not only in San Francisco, but across the country, share for the unfortunate consistent violence that we see as it relates to African American men who unfortunately are killed by police officers. This is what we know is sparked what you are seeing as it relates to protest. Being sick and tired of being sick and tired, being frustrated by not seeing a change, and seeing this play itself out all over the country. We know that here in San Francisco, we've made a lot of gains with our time and distance and our complicit bias training and other things to try and make sure that our officers have what they need to understand and appropriately police our communities with also compassion and respect. And it has been very difficult when you see what you see that happened to George Floyd and others. It is hard not to have a reaction. It is hard not to feel the pain. Especially when you hear someone who is struggling and others are standing around and watching and not doing anything. The thing that was the most heartbreaking was when we saw him calling for his mother. I know that touched a chord with me, it touched a chord with so many people, and sadly, he is no longer with us. And that is what we know is at the heart of the protest. We know that people are frustrated, they're hurt, they're upset, they're angry, all kinds of emotions. I know that not only am I feeling these emotions, but we also know that there are a number of people who work within law enforcement that feel the same way too. And as a city, we will do better. As a country, we have to do better. Because we know that this situation that constantly has played itself out in this way cannot continue. So I want to just express my understanding and appreciation for those who are peacefully protesting, for those who want a forum and want to come together and express themselves, even if what you have to say is not something that anyone wants to hear, you know, even if it's negative or people are angry and upset and mad and hurt, everyone has the right to express themselves verbally in any way they see fit, especially when it's difficult to process your emotions. So I get that. I understand that, and I empathize with what we are all feeling collectively. And as mayor, it doesn't mean that I'm immune from feeling the hurt and the pain. Having my own experiences, especially growing up here in San Francisco. It's why I ran for mayor. It's why I got into politics, because I wanted to change things. And part of what is very challenging here is we know that on the one hand, yesterday, for example, there was a large, peaceful protest that started early on at City Hall. And there were a lot of people, of course, expressing themselves and peacefully protesting. There were a few marches and a number of other gatherings. And eventually, as night began to fall, those protests turned into violence. There were, unfortunately, assaults on people, including police officers. There was vandalisms on vehicles and businesses. There were fires lit. And that is really not something that we can tolerate. And in fact, in watching the videos, I was extremely upset because, unfortunately, with some of the vandals, they thought this was a game. They thought this was funny. And this is not funny. To damage property, to set fires that could lead to someone else's death, to do the kinds of things that destroy and tear down our city as a symbol of what is going on and how to address it. This is not who we are. We should not be okay with this. And I also want to point out that there were a lot of young people out there. In fact, a lot of juveniles. So parents, where are your kids? Where are your kids? The fact that we had so many situations occur all over San Francisco in a way that has tried to destroy and tear down our city is not something that we're going to tolerate. We will always support and tolerate peaceful protest because people deserve to have that vehicle. But when it rises to the level of a crime, we have an obligation. We have an obligation. And so we will do what we need to do to protect the city so that people are safe. That includes even, unfortunately, sometimes doing things that make people uncomfortable, bringing in additional law enforcement, bringing in additional resources. When you think about it, if someone is hurt and they call 911, who's the first to show up to the scene? Our firefighters and paramedics. But they were inundated with fires that were deliberately set, with Molotov cocktails that were thrown and ignited fires. They were inundated. So what happens if your mother is having a heart attack and there's no one to come to her rescue? And we're in the midst of COVID-19. And just imagine how many more infections are going to occur because of these large gatherings, because they're not necessarily being done safely. So we have decided, as I said last night, to implement a curfew. It'll be effective 8 o'clock tonight. Of course, the exemptions are our healthcare workers and our police and firefighters and other public safety personnel. But it will be in force 8 a.m. tonight until 8 p.m. tonight until 5 a.m. in the morning. And until we see that the situation is under control, we will allow the curfew to remain. And the other thing that we have done is gotten support from law enforcement, from the governor's office, and I'll have the chief talk a little bit about that, but we have to make sure that we are prepared to ensure that what happened in our city doesn't happen tonight. So for those of you who are thinking about coming to San Francisco to cause havoc, we're going to be ready, and we're going to do what we need to do in order to protect the city. We, again, welcome peaceful protest, but we will not tolerate violence and crime. So I ask for your cooperation and also your understanding that we can't just sit by and let you destroy our city. We will do what we need to do. And so I want to really, let the people of San Francisco know that I know that we've been asking a lot of you, especially during COVID-19. We've asked an awful lot of the people of San Francisco. And I want to just express my appreciation for what you have done in playing a role in helping us to not only flatten the curve, but supporting this curfew, which is absolutely necessary for public safety.